Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and today we are talking about how apparently Nintendo, behind the scenes, is referring to their next generation console, their successor to the Switch, as Switch 2. This information is coming from Midori, who's considered to be an extremely credible leaker on the level of PRO, but has a history focusing on Sega and Atlus. But more recently, they've been providing some leaks about Nintendo, including Switch 2. They already said some things regarding the codename situation for Switch 2, but now they provided even more information for us to discuss. So today what I want to focus on is this overall situation regarding the codename of Switch 2, or what it's being called behind the scenes, and what this may imply for the console itself, and what we should be expecting from it once it's finally revealed. I think there are some very interesting things to be said here. But first, let me share you this message from today's sponsor, Red Deer Games. Red Deer Games is responsible for developing a variety of games, including their latest, Tokyo Cooking, which is launching on Nintendo Switch May 17th. As the name suggests, this game is about cooking. But it's a bit different than other popular cooking games. This one in particular you play in first person, and it has more of a relaxing vibe to it. You move around in your kitchen, in your stockroom, and you individually pick up your tools or ingredients and you bring them together to the appropriate places, be it the cutting board, be it the stove, be it the sink, and you put together various foods you would have at a sushi restaurant. You are running a sushi restaurant, and so as you play through this game, you will actually learn how to put together various forms of actual sushi. So this game actually teaches you a bit about cooking, but in a fun and relaxing way. And that's something I noticed when playing this game. It's very relaxing. I love the music, it's very chill, and the characters are actually quite interesting as well. So you are a chef that seems to maybe have a history as a Yakuza, as some of the customers may acknowledge and ask you about, but your goal is simply to be a chef in this renovated restaurant that your grandma used to run. And so you spend your days cooking, talking to these different customers, having interesting conversations, and then at the end of the day, you come back, and with the money you've made, you can use that to purchase different cosmetic options for your restaurant to cater it to your personal style. And it's a fun game, it's relaxing, it's chill. So if you're into cooking, if you're into something that's gonna help you relax a little bit, I think it's definitely worth considering Tokyo Cooking. So big thanks to Red Deer Games for sponsoring today's video and allowing me to enjoy Tokyo Cooking. It's a pretty fun, chill way to learn how to make some good sushi. So let's go over what Midori has said. So on May 12th, this is not the new information, this is just the initial information, Midori talked about how there's a code name at Nintendo of a project called U-King-O, and basically this implies that they are working on a new version of Breath of the Wild. We've discussed this already, it'll be some sort of remaster, probably 4K 60, but the reason it's interesting is because U-King-O was the initial code name for Breath of the Wild, but the inclusion of the O implies it's for another console. They bring up how C was for 3DS ports, because 3DS had the codename of CTR, and the letter S was for Switch ports, but there has not been any codenames using -O beforehand until now, with U-King-O seemingly suggesting a next-generation remaster of Breath of the Wild on Switch 2. So we've already discussed this before, but they've provided some additional updates. So Midori says, maybe the codename is Ounce because Nintendo was able to put stronger hardware into a portable device that is still not too heavy to use, so it is similar to the GameCube name. So firstly, let me say that Pioro, the other extremely credible leaker, has referred to the codename of Switch 2 as Ounce or something. So the implication is that they've seen the abbreviation of OZ, which stands for Ounce. And that's what Midori seems to be speaking on here. But I find it interesting how they're talking about so it's similar to the GameCube name. And at first I wasn't super certain what they were referring to, because the GameCube had the codename of Dolphin. So that part I'm not sure how it relates, but I think what they're really referring to here is more so this effort of just putting stronger hardware into a more portable device. So the Nintendo GameCube was fairly small for how powerful it was back in the day. It was a game cube. It even came with a built-in handle so you could carry it around so it could be more portable. But they also took some additional measures to help out with this. One was the memory cards that you could use to take around to other places without actually having to carry the console. But even just in terms of the size of the console, they used small discs, which are really great for fast loading, and it made the console very comfortable, but of course, there were some issues, because the discs didn't have as much storage because they were smaller. But anyways, maybe this is what Midori is getting at here, that this ounce codename may be referring to Nintendo focusing on just building some pretty advanced hardware, but fitting it into a portable form factor. Trying to deliver that home console experience portably. It's basically what the Switch is. It was what the initial promise of what the Switch was. When they gave us that first teaser trailer for Nintendo Switch 1, and that very first game they showed was the greatly anticipated Breath of the Wild. This open world Zelda game they've been waiting such a long time for, this big next generational leap for Zelda. They showed it playing on a TV first, but then they revealed that it was portable, and it was still great to play in portable mode. And so that's the basic pitch for the Nintendo Switch, being able to switch between both home console and portable mode seamlessly. And so it appears what Midori is speculating on here, this goes beyond speculation by the way, but I'm focusing on this part first, is basically that they're just getting at the Nintendo's doubling down on this idea of Switch, fitting even more powerful hardware into a relatively small device. Now apparently what we've heard from some of the latest leaks and reports, the Switch 2 is going to be something in between the size of the Switch OLED and the Steam Deck. I'll put an image here so you can see the comparison. It's a mock-up, but it's supposed to overall represent the idea of how this console is going to be shaped in terms of size. It's bigger than the OLED, but it still looks like it's going to be fairly sleek by comparison to the Steam Deck. And I personally like that they're going this direction. I want to have a bigger screen. I think an 8-inch screen, as what's been reported, sounds pretty great. That's an improvement over the 6.2-inch screen of the base Switch and even the 7-inch screen for the OLED. But we've also heard about how the Joy-Cons, not only will they be new versions of the Joy-Cons that will be connecting magnetically, but also that they're going to be bigger. And to me, this suggests that they will be more ergonomic, more comfortable to hold. And I've had issues with the current Joy-Cons when I'm playing on my Switch. Sometimes when I'm holding up the Switch without any sort of extra grip support, it can numb my hands if I'm playing for more than a few minutes, at not the most ideal angles. So I would be okay with this particular size. However, in reference to what Midori is saying here, this appears to be mostly their speculation. There is some actual info that they are providing with their next comment here. Here Midori says, in conversations with developers including Atlus and Sega over the past few years, the next hardware is using the name Switch 2 or New Switch, but I do not think that is the final name. So behind the scenes, the devs of Switch 2 are referring to Switch 2 as Switch 2 or New Switch. Does this mean that this is what they're going to call the console? No, not necessarily, as Midori suggests here. But it is very interesting that they refer to this console as Switch 2 or New Switch. What does that suggest? Assuming there's more to it than just referencing the next console, that suggests that this is a direct follow-up to the Nintendo Switch, and it is essentially a better Switch, an evolution and not a revolution. But with this in mind, let's go back to the codename. When considering what Midori was suggesting by this codename of Ounce, maybe that is the overall take, just trying to do an even better job of what the Switch is. An evolution of Switch. Squeezing in more powerful hardware into a smaller space, making it more comfortable, making it more efficient from a power consumption perspective, doing different things in better ways. We've talked about in the past how we've heard that there may be a fan, potentially, in the dock. And if that's the case, that would allow the Switch 2 to go up to even higher clock speeds when docked, when plugged into an external power source, so the difference between portable mode and docked mode will be more substantial, which was actually a fairly common criticism of the Switch in its earlier days. Not many people felt like the gap between portable mode and docked mode was significant enough. And so by doing something like this, what they're doing a better job of this promise of offering high quality portable play, but also high quality home console play. Many have thought of the Switch as an ideal portable console, but when it comes to home console gaming, for many, it leaves a lot to be desired, especially by today's standards. So doing something like including a fan in the dock would certainly make a big difference. But of course, it goes beyond that. We've heard about the Switch 2 specs, we've heard about the DLSS, how that can push things through the AI upscaling, giving us better resolution, better performance, and even better ray tracing with ray reconstruction, which basically just means the simulation of really cool real-world lighting effects, which will in turn make games look noticeably better. This AI upscaling that Nvidia's been working on, the basic idea is that it allows hardware that's running it to punch a bit higher than its weight. And from what we've heard of the shipment leaks of the 12GB of RAM, the LPDDR5X, that is a pretty quick, efficient version of RAM, and that should set up the Switch 2 to better utilize the abilities of DLSS. But something I talked about earlier this week is that if the Switch 2 name, or code name I should say, is OZ, which people are taking to mean ounce because that's what OZ stands for, but what if instead it's not ounce, but literally just OZ as in Oz, as in the Wizard of Oz, which seemingly seems magical, but in actuality this wizardry looks so impressive because of the intelligent, incredible technology behind the scenes that only seems magical from an outsider's point of view. That would also be fitting from what we're apparently hearing of this console with the magnetic controllers with the DLSS, with hopefully a better realized version of not just portable play with more ergonomic Joy-Cons, but also better docked play with the better specs and perhaps even a better dock situation that may include an additional fan for heating reasons so it can go up to higher clock speeds. Perhaps that's what's being suggested by this apparent code name for Switch 2, be it Switch Ounce or Switch Oz, or even just by devs behind the scenes referring to it as the new Switch or the Switch 2. A proper evolution of the console. But what do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.